All right, so we've talked about mapping your meetings, practicing self-accountability with sanctuary time. We've talked about a weekly win, planning your week, and we've also talked about daily huddles with your team. What are we missing, or what do all of these previous podcast episodes have in common?
Okay, so everything we've talked about has to do with time management and people management. But what we haven't really talked about, and we're going to spend some time on today, is focus. And the funny thing is, talking about focus, if I don't stay focused, then I waste time, right? And we're talking about time management. So it kind of fiddles around. But Gary Keller said it really good in his book, The One Thing. He said, what is the one thing you can do that when you get that done, everything else is easier or unnecessary? And it's very common. Almost every single client that I work with wants to improve the way they manage their time. Being busy is not an issue. Okay, it's easy to be busy, particularly the longer you're in business, the more opportunities you have to do stuff. All right, but what are you doing that when you get that done, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary? So let me give you an example. Recently, I had a coaching call with a client. Actually, I was talking with their executive team, and basically, the owner or CEO was doing a lot of technical work within the company, so tactical skills that had to do, and doing a lot of other things. Extremely busy, super guy, but he wasn't focusing on the sales part as far as hunting, and then the farming part as far as serving clients, making certain they're happy. He was spending some time there, but it was like last on his list. He was letting other things be the fires, the things that get his attention. So the company's growth was limited. Okay. And that's just one client. I run into this all the time. Or it might be that a person is a superstar tech, but they're not able to get to the technical work because they're doing other things in the business. And so what you need to really do is figure out, what do you love to do? What are your strengths? Those two things are important. But then you need to figure out, okay, what can I do that will really make this organization grow, make my team grow? What can I do that Keller says makes it easier and necessary, other things, but also it's the growth. What can I do that's really significant? And then how do I shove everything else aside so I've got 5, 10, or 20 hours a week that I'm going to focus on this most important thing, because that's really going to get me where I want to go. Does that make sense, Jeff?
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's tough because a lot of people say the word focus. And, I found it back when I was playing sports. The word focus, but the word focus doesn't really mean anything unless you really narrow down the specifics of what you're going to focus on. So I think that's important.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I can see things clearly. I can be focused, quote unquote, like you say. But as Gary Keller says, if you're not focused on truly what's going to make a big difference, then you're missing out. And here's the problem. As a matter of fact, David Timmer wrote a book on leadership. I'm going to meet with them on Monday, actually. He's out of William Jessup University. He heads up their leadership group. It's a great book. Forgive me. We'll have to refer to it in the notes. I don't have it in front of me.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, look it up. It's on Amazon. I bought it and I read it. It's great. But he makes a point in there that a lot of leaders have been a leader for 20 years, but they're doing the same thing they were 20 years ago. They haven't grown themselves significantly, and they haven't achieved significant things because they're busy and they're stuck in a rut. Are they productive? Yes. Are they nice people? Yes. Are they achieving some things? Yes. But are they being their best? Are they achieving significant results? No, because they see clearly, but as you said, but they're not focused on what's truly most important. And that's the biggest thing you can get out of this podcast. And if you need help, go talk with someone else. You can talk with me, I'm a coach, but you can talk with someone else and really work through it, and work through it with your team. So Gary Keller, when he figured out what is his one thing he needed to focus on, before Keller Williams, the real estate group, really grew exponentially, they came up with 100 ideas. Talk about focus, right? Is that focused? No, but it's clear. Actually, in your original definition, Jeff, you said it is focused. They saw those things clearly. But 100 different things, they narrowed it down, got it to 10. They narrowed it down to one, which interestingly was to write a book about why their business model was superior as a real estate agency. And that tool enabled them to catapult other groups and grow significantly. So that's what you need to do as a group, your leadership team, and maybe with some outside advisors for clarity. Figure out what that one thing is you should be working on. And then you've really got to focus your time to get that done. And then you apply what we talked about with the win and the map meeting and other things to hold yourself accountable on a daily and weekly basis. That make
So
sense?
yeah, so when someone feels like they're not focused or they're just getting pulled in too many directions, what advice do you give them?
Um, take a break, and you have to decide whether you can do this on your own with your team or with an outside party. I get called in because somebody, the way I say it is, somebody needs to get hit across the forehead with a 2x4. And of course, I never do that physically, but mentally, respectfully, I'll say, well, why are you doing this? And how do we get you where you want to go? And the outside perspective often can help you because you're just caught in the mix of all this stuff. Okay. Sometimes your team can do it. Sometimes taking a break and taking a day off, you know, some people need a week off. But oftentimes when they take that day off or that week off, they're still doing busy stuff. They're still doing work. You need to get away. You need to clear your brain and step back and say, if I were looking at myself in this role and I wanted that person to be incredibly effective, incredibly efficient, and achieve big things, is this how I would have them spending their time? And too often, the answer is no, that's not what I'd be having them do. And that applies to us. And by the way, when we struggle with this issue, then we're a role model. And most of the time, if not all of the time, our people are struggling with the same issue. So it exponentially filters down and runs through our whole organization.